Hello, we are here today to talk about early interventions. What is going to be the focus of today's discussion? We are going to talk about certain concepts. We will start with the concept of early intervention. We will move on to the significance, the rationale for early intervention, the scope of early intervention, the advantages of early intervention, as well as the types of early intervention. Gads in 1998 said that there is a growing evidence that the quality of child's experience in the first 2 years of life, including care and stimulation as well as health and nutrition, has a long lasting effect on the development of the brain. By the age of 6, when children generally start school, most of the brain's neural connections are already made. From here, let us move on to the concept of early intervention. We all know that parenting styles in India encounter common challenges in educational preparation of the child. Parents in India are deeply and directly involved in preparing their child for this competition within the current schooling system. However, this trend is in sharp and complete contrast to the trend among parenting practices of those parents having children with developmental delay or risk for developmental delay. Special needs among children with developmental delay or at risk for developmental delay have issues surrounding information related diagnosis of special needs. These parents need to explore appropriate support for child's developmental backlog to provide these early intervention services, which we in short call as EIS, which are accessible, authentic and affordable. Early childhood education, the ECE, includes ages from birth through 8 years, or we may roughly say from infancy through 3rd grade. It refers to group settings deliberately intended to affect developmental changes in children from this age group. There is what is called DAP, which is developmentally appropriate practice, which refers to providing instructional programs that meet the child's needs socially, cognitively, physically. Now, early childhood special education, ECSE, which we are going to talk about today, is a global phenomenon of shifting from institutionalization and working towards deinstitutionalization. And this has prompted inclusion of children with developmental challenges into the community, which is the foundational, this is the very foundational principle of inclusive education, IE practices in this early childhood special education. What are the objectives of this ECSE, early childhood special education? To check disability, to prevent secondary effects of disability, to prevent amelioration of at risk for disability conditions, to maximize residual potential and prevent from losing it any further, to enable and empower families to cope with disability conditions and adopt a positive attitude to rear a child with special needs. The term ECSE, early childhood special education, becomes synonymous with using of teaching strategies for young children with developmental disabilities within this age group, which I have talked about, especially between 3 to 6 years. This is inevitable if the education for all, that is including young children with disability, has to become a reality. Children with developmental challenges often encounter several learning challenges. Developmental challenges or disabilities may manifest mental retardation, sensory handicaps like vision, hearing or tactile related challenges, neural or neuromotor or physical handicaps, emotional problems, emotional or behavioral challenges, multiple handicaps, borderline intelligence or specific learning disabilities. However, all these conditions, whatever may be the degree of its severity, need early attention, and this should be followed by appropriate emotional support as well. Nature of support drawn from special educational field depends upon specific characteristics of a child's nature of learning difficulty as said by Rao in 1997. Let us now look into the rationale for this early intervention. Enrollment as well as retention in school is a major problem for children with disabilities. A multi-centered study which was carried out in 1994 at National Institute for Mentally Handicapped NIMH, it is now called as National Institute for Empowerment of Persons with Intellectual Disability, it's NIPID. This is in Secunderabad. This revealed certain findings. It said that about 50% of the parents are able to recognize the delayed development or mental retardation of their children as early as below the age of 2 years, while 35% of the parents could recognize only after the age of 2 years. This was a study which was reported in 2000 by RCI. If we add an intervention, early intervention, then what will be the developmental gains? Delay in development can be identified as early as at birth to 3 months of age. Development is orderly and predictable. Therefore, it can be prevented from any further delay. Residual abilities can be restored if trained early in life or soon after identification of developmental challenges. Prevention of childhood diseases that lead to delay or at risk for developmental delay is also most beneficial, and residual abilities can be restored for future adaptation to needs in life. Early identification helps voluntary acceptance among peer group and most suitable for inclusion in early years below the age of 6 years. Early identification helps parents to adopt a positive and desirable attitude for effective parenting skills as well. Now, coming to the readiness for school, to persuade the goal of this education for all, which we have been talking about shortly a while ago, it requires efforts to work towards minimizing the hurdles manifested from developmental or sensory deficits in preschoolers. Any deficits resulting from brain related impairment have potential to manifest in some form or degree of sensory loss. Such risks, if not addressed before crossing the preschool years, can lead to persistent educational risks in later school years. Primary teachers mostly encounter such population because mild deficits in educational learning potential are mistaken for something like lack of attention, lack of motivation or appreciation or lack of appreciation for education or learning in primary class levels itself. Such assumptions run a risk of ignoring children who can be helped and mainstreamed into regular schools. Lack of appropriate educational assessment and programming materials is one of the most important reasons for not identifying preschoolers with mild to moderate sensory impairments before they actually reach preschools. So, there is a need which is felt for a comprehensive tool to detect sensory losses during the early years and programming support to promote educational functioning through promotion of sensory integration and early stimulation. Now, let us come to the early literacy skills. Focus on developing early literacy skills primarily focus on pre-academic skills, which can be broadly categorized across 3 areas matching with the child's developmental potential and needs for early learning. One of them, the first of them can be pre-reading skills, the second can be pre-math or arithmetic skills, third can be pre-writing skills. There is this school readiness domains which is standardized by SCERT of Telangana. The curriculum, interestingly, will include training across these several domains which we have been emphasizing upon. The first of them is personal, social and emotional development domain. This includes, please note, personal, social as well as emotional development. Second one is physical development and play. The third one is language and communication. The fourth is understanding the world. Fifth, expressive arts and design. And the last is early literacy. All these are very carefully chalked out. Now, what is the scope of early intervention? There is a scope of interdepartmental coordination through convergence. What are the various departments which can converge, which can be brought together and which can together coordinate these early interventions? For example, Department of Women and Child Development, Department of Health, Department of Education, and of course, all the SSA, RMSA and other schemes, Department of Disability Welfare. When all these departments coordinate together, it is possible to develop, and it has been seen that early interventions can be very carefully chalked out and developed in an effective way. There is also a scope for parental involvement. This involves two aspects. One is enabling the parents to understand the need and involving them in the intervention. Second is empowering the parents. Empowering the parents in such a way that they understand that they have the capabilities and skills to deal with the problem. Then comes the 3 P's model of parenting for special parents, parents with children who have special needs. While raising a child with developmental challenges, 3 P's are important. P, alphabet P, 3 P's. First P stands for positiveness, second P stands for patience, and the third P stands for practice. What is positiveness? The parental acceptance of child's developmental condition and challenges. The very first step is towards this positiveness, where the parent accepts that this is the condition, these are the challenges which we are going to face, and then comes how to deal with them. Second is patience. Not only being positive towards it, but also being patient with the child. The tolerance practiced by parents, this can be drawn from the comprehensive information regarding child's developmental status, appropriate measures for helping child, prevent further loss of residual skills, as well as minimizing the effects of delay in development. And the third P, as I said, is practice. And what is practice? Regulated and sustained efforts practiced by the parents, especially for developing school readiness skills among special child with delayed development or at risk for developmental delay. This is what practice means. Now, talking so much about early intervention, are there any advantages of early intervention? Maria Montessori, way back in 1976, advocated that children can perform 50 times better when they reach adulthood if sound foundation in training educational capacities is initiated during their early childhood years. And remember, we said this is between birth to 8 years. In this, as a part of this, there may be an early identification of potential curiosity, and early intervention helps developing children's abilities before 6 years, as mentioned in a particular sequence which I am going to talk about as cited by Gary Dierenfeld in 2014. 0 to 6 months, if early intervention is given, then there is a development which is 20% versus 80%, if it is 0 to 6 months. If it is 0 to 18 months, it is 40% versus 60%. If it is 0 to 5 years, then it is 80% versus 20%. The holistic learning theory of how brain functions helps plan appropriate and balance early years curriculum. This is what Lashley in 1960 and Lundberg in 1969 have said. We also talk about left brain, which is responsible for language. It can be English, it can be another language, it can be the mother tongue, the native language, it can be math, and when it comes to right brain, it may relate to music like through chanting, songs. It can be creativity through games and play method. It can be addressing emotion through role plays. Let us now address the types of early intervention. Please look at this slide. The social missions for early intervention needs have been addressing across a sequence of history the following points. Between 1920 and 1930, poverty versus social support was the focus area. In 1950, around 1950 and the period that followed, the focal areas have been social advantage and promoting integration. Between 1960 and 1970, social and racial integration. Between 1980 and 90, integration of children with special needs has been considered. This is where we see a change in the status, and from 2000 onwards, prevention of early childhood diseases, disabilities and at risk for delayed development and promoting disability related preventive research has taken the front seat. If you see this whole chart, you see a movement from the poverty, focus upon poverty and social support, to the present status where a lot of preventive research is also being done. It is not just targeting what is existent. Even prevention of the problem and maintenance of whatever residual skills are there is what is important in today's scenario. Let us look at some of the inclusive preschool models in India. We have this creche model which focuses on child care model. In addition to that, we also see play school model. Anganwadi is something which most of us are aware of. Then there is this regular preschool model. At a particular age, the children are sent to this preschool, and there are Montessori centers. Then there are these Bhavita reception centers for children with special needs under SSA. There is a diversity. There is a lot of diversity which is existing in the preschool practices, and this in itself is challenging for any one single educational model to accommodate a range of several activities with relation to school readiness, which we have been talking about. So, in this context, for the preschool children, for the ages before the preschool age, there may be several practices which may be necessary, and hence so many models are proposed. The existing diversity in regular preschool practices makes it challenging for any one educational model or a single educational model to accommodate the wide range of school readiness needs in preschool children arising from diverse disability conditions, which in turn manifest delayed development, developmental risks or impairments. Across the private and government organizations, there are diverse models. Qualifications of the staff involved vary due to a lack of a standardized policy for these children in the preschool, that is below 6 years of age. Even class sizes vary. Some may have what is called individualized approach with about 20 children per class, whereas some may have a large size of students accommodating at least 60 or sometimes a little more than that in one or a single class. So, even the size of the class wherein in terms of the number of students in the class also matters. Then the other challenge again will be furnishing in the classes. It may range from sophisticated toys and equipment to most primitive provision with limited wall space to even display the learning materials like flip charts or cards or certain boards, with instances where classes are conducted sometimes under trees because there may be lack of resources, sometimes there is a lack of space. So, diversity is considered in many aspects, not only in terms of the availability of resources, availability of the staff, availability of several facilities with relation to the preschool model of children with special needs. Diversity in preschool models can be treated advantageous in context of children with learning challenges if only the placement plans are carefully scheduled to accustom these children from least to most formal learning environments. But parents also face difficulty due to the restricted choice, because the listed choices so far, whatever we have been talking about, do not consistently prevail in all Indian cities for that matter, or districts for much more so. So, considering several limitations, considering several restrictions and boundaries, in spite of that, the early childhood interventions with relation to children with such intellectual disabilities or at risk of developmental delays have to be planned very carefully.